Hello everyone, in this video we're going to be using the dog API to display a bunch of dogs which number 172, and then we're going to be displaying information about each particular dog. And then when you hover over one of the cards and you click on them, then it's going to take you into an inner page with that particular dog and then more information about it. And then if you happen to click on one that has a description such as this one, then it's also going to show the description of that dog if it loads in, and it's going to show the description like that. So if it doesn't have a description, then we simply just remove this, and if it does have a description, then it's going to be added in. And then you can also search for a dog by its name or by its breed. So if I search for a German Shepherd, then notice how it gives me a bunch of results. That's because it is going to be matching what we type in and then checking for whether each dog has that particular text string in their name. And then if you search for the full name of the dog, then it's only going to show you the one particular dog. And then when you click on it, it is going to take you to a bigger page containing more information about that particular dog. And then of course, if you had already searched for a particular dog, then you can go ahead and search for another dog and it's still going to show you the correct results. That is because every time that we are submitting this form, then we are sending an API GET request, which brings back a bunch of data which are just displaying on the screen, and that is what is happening here. So we are going to be building this using ReactJs and Tailwind CSS and React Router DOM, which is going to help us in our routing. We're going to be using the dog API, and if you look into the documentation, then we are going to be using the /breeds, so list all the breeds that we can get. And then the GET request that we're going to be sending should be this one right here. So if I go to this link, then this is the GET request that we're going to be getting back. So this is all our data, and you can see that it contains 172 items. And I just want to mention that this extension is called JSON formatter, so it just formats the JSON so that it looks more readable. And now my computer is hanging. So as we begin, I've canvassed a new React application and I've called it the dog app. So you can go ahead and do that by running npx create react app and then giving your app a particular name. I've decided to call mine the dog app. And so what I'm going to do is I just want to open Visual Studio Code into that folder. So I'm going to say code, oops, what is this? Oh, I accidentally pasted something in. So just say code the dog app. And this is going to open a new instance of Visual Studio Code into this folder, which I am going to maximize. And then we can begin. As we begin, then please subscribe to the channel if you're not already, and ring the notification bell so that you're always going to be notified of when I upload a new video. So the first thing that I want to do is I actually want to install Tailwind CSS, which is going to help us in our styling. So using Ctrl and J, I'm going to open up my integrated terminal, and then I'm going to navigate back into my browser and head over into Tailwind CSS installation. And then I'm going to go into my framework guides, and I'm going to go into create react app, and then we can begin the installation. So just copy this and paste it inside here and let it run, and then copy this next one, and then once this runs, then we can just paste it in. So once it runs, just paste this in and let this run, which will create our Tailwind config file as well as our post CSS config file. And then once we have these two files, then I'm going to go back inside here and just copy this line, and then inside our Tailwind config file, I'm just going to paste it inside here, paste it in and save it. And then we're going to copy these 3 lines and paste them inside our index.css. So inside the source folder, inside our index.css, we can paste this on top and save it. And then what we need to install next is React Router DOM, which is going to help us in our internal routing. So I'm going to say npm install React Router DOM. And then as it installs, let me go ahead and let's begin some cleanup. So I'm going to delete the app.css, the app.test.js, the logo, reported vitals and the setup tests, delete them. And then inside our public folder, we're going to delete the favicon, the logo, as well as the manifest JSON. So we're only going to remain with the index.html and the robots. And then inside the index.html, let's just change this title into the dog app and save this. And then we can move this comment all the way up to here because we've also deleted the manifest JSON. And then I'm going to change this theme color into 111827, which is a very dark gray. And we can remove this comment as well. And then we can go into our app.js. And then on top, let's just go ahead and confirm that React Router has finished installing. So let's begin setup. So I'm going to say import browser router, and then import routes, import route as well from React Router. And then I'm just going to remove everything inside here and then return a fragment. And then inside this fragment, we're going to return browser router, which is going to be the parent of everything else. And then we're going to return our routes component like so. Space this out. And then inside our routes component, we're going to begin adding the routes that we're going to have. So inside here, we're going to have a route with a path of /. So the path is where you want your link to go when you click on it. So for example, if you go and type in something inside here that doesn't exist, as long as you have the element pointing to the correct component, which you are going to call the home component, and close it out. As long as the element points this one, when you navigate to this route, then the home component is always going to show. And then of course this, I don't want this to be a link, obviously. So I'm just going to be going into the /, meaning the / which is going to be the home page. And then I'm going to copy this downwards, and then this is going to be going into /; name. And this name is going to be coming from the API once we begin to fetch the data, and it's going to represent the name of every individual dog. So that inside here, we're just going to say single dog component, which is going to return a single dog basically. And then we can save this, and then this is going to break a bit because we don't have these components. So let's go ahead and create them. So inside our source folder, let's go ahead and create a new folder called components. And then inside components, let's go, and you know what, let me not say components, let me call this pages because they are pages. And then let's create a new file inside here called home.js. And then let's also create a new file here called single dog.js. And then inside here, I'm going to say RFC, which is going to return a React function component and export it. And that is coming from an extension called ES7 React Redux and React Native Snippets. So this extension right here, you can go ahead and install it, and then you can go through its documentation right here to see what you can do with it. And then inside our single dog, so this is the single dog. So inside our home, let's say RFC once again, just say enter, and then we're going to have this, and then we can import them now. So import home from /pages/home. Copy this down, change this into single dog, and then change this into single dog. And then now this should work, but we're going to test it out by running our application. So npm run start. So our app is now running on localhost 3000, but with an error that says cannot resolve this because we deleted this file, but it's still referenced in our index.js. So let's go inside our index.js, and then let's remove this part, and then remove this part as well, and save it. And once it reloads, then now we should see our application, and it should say nothing. Oh, it says home. Okay, that's correct actually, because now we are on the home page, so it's rendering the home component, and the home component currently says home. So let's begin to work on this. And the first thing that we're going to do is we want to import our hooks, which are going to help us to fetch our data. So import the use state and the use effect hook. And then let's see, I've just forgotten the link to the API, so let me remember it. So this is the website to the API. It's called the dogapi.com. And if you go into documentation, and then we should have something like breeds, and we should say list the breeds, which is a get request. So the get request that we're going to be sending is this one right here. When I go to this link, and we should see some data returned. And I actually think I showed this in the beginning, but I just happened to close this page. So let me just have it open. So this is going to be the link to the API. So let me copy this and then back inside our application. So I'm going to create our state value, which is going to help us to get the data and to populate it once we fetch our data. So I'm going to call this state value dogs and set dogs. This is going to be equal to use state, and by default it's going to be an empty array because we are getting an array of objects in from the get request sent from the API. So let's go ahead and fetch our data. So use effect, call our use effect hook with a callback function and an empty dependency array so that it only runs once on the initial render. And then inside here I'm going to call a function called fetch dog data. This is going to be an asynchronous function like so. And then inside here I'm going to place a try catch block, and then inside the catch block I'm just going to say console.error the error. So in case there's an error, then it's going to throw an error in the console. And then inside here let's go ahead and say let's try and fetch the data. So const res is equal to await fetch, and then just paste in this link, which is the link to our API. And then const data, meaning the data that we get back, we're going to say await res.json, so convert it into JSON. And then let's say set dogs into the data that we get back, meaning populate our state value that we have on top. And then let's go ahead and do this. Let's go ahead and just say below this, let me say actually I'm doing this wrong. By doing this wrong, let me go below this. Let's say fetch dog data, and there we go. And then just to see whether we have anything on this one, let me just say console log data as well. And then when I save this, then I go into our application, then we should have some data in our console, and we have an array of 172 items. Okay, now I've just noticed something. Don't worry about this favicon. React sometimes does this. It remembers the favicon of the last application that you are working on, so that's why I have this favicon inside here. So don't worry about this. And now let's go ahead and begin to style this out. So inside our home, let's return and you know what, let's check first whether dogs is an empty array or not. So if it is an empty array, then I just want to display loading on the screen. So let's go ahead and add our parentheses, and I'm going to say that if no dogs, meaning if it is an empty array or if it is null or undefined. So if this is true, then return an h1 that says loading. So loading ... And then if it is not true, meaning we have got our data back, then I just want to render a fragment, to return a fragment, not render a fragment. So return a fragment, and then inside here let's return a section, and then inside this section let's just say dogs.length, dogs, meaning how many dogs do we have, and we should see 172. And so let's go ahead and style this h1. Let's give this a class name of flex and item center and justify center and text slate 800. And then let's just say text center as well, text dash center, and then padding on the x of 5, and then let's increase its size to 3xl. And now loading should appear in the middle of the screen, but let me turn this into positive so that we should always see loading here. There we go. Okay, now I want it to move to the middle, so let's say h of screen, meaning 100 viewport heights, which is going to move it to the middle. And then let's make it bold, so font bold, and there we go. And you know what, let me also make it uppercase. I think uppercase is better. Loading, yeah, I think that is much better. And then let's return this back to the negative so that the loading disappears, and then we have 172 dogs, and then we can tell up this section. So inside this section I'm going to give this a class name of padding all round of 8, and then let me give it a max width of 6xl and an mx of auto, which is going to like limit everything and push it towards the center somehow. And then let's begin to fetch our data. And before we fetch our data, before we display our data, I want to return an h1 that says the dog app. And you know what, this h1 is going to have the same classes as this, so copy this, paste it inside here, except for the uppercase, so remove this uppercase. And then inside here we're also going to add a class and say that for large screens, then the text should increase to 5xl, and we should see the dog app here. Okay, so which means we should remove this. There we go, so that now it's going to be centered on top. And then let's see, below this h1 let's add a paragraph that says this application is powered by, and then add in an href that says https the dog app, sorry, API, is it API? The dog API.com, and then just add the dog API as the text, like so, and we should see this app is powered by the dog API right here. And then let's style this href, so give this a class name of text indigo -600 and underline. And then when it is active, meaning when you click on it, then change the text into orange dash, let's say 400. Let me see. So when you click on it, see how the text changes to orange. There we go. So that's the functionality that we want. And then let me grab this h1 and this paragraph, just grab both of them, place them inside a div, and then inside this div I'm going to go and give this a class name of text-center. Let me see, so that everything is going to move to the center now. And then I can go inside this paragraph, give this a class name of margin on the y, so margin on the top of and bottom of a, to push away from the paragraph and to push away from the form that we're going to have. And let's actually create that form next. So below this paragraph, let's have a form, and this form is not going to have an action, and for the time being it's only going to be UI only. We're going to integrate the search functionality towards the end. So we're going to have an input with a type of text, with a name of search, with an ID of search, with a placeholder that says search for a dog or breed. And then let me just have it as that. Let me see, we're going to have search for a dog or breed. Let me style this out. Let me give this a class name of bg rows 400 so that I can actually see it. There we go. And then let's give it a padding of, or padding on the y-axis of 2, padding on the x of 4, with a rounded border. And then let's just say give it a very slight box shadow. Let me see that happens. Let's say width dash full, which should take it to the end. There we go. And then because I don't want it to actually go towards the end, I don't want such a big input, then I'm going to go inside the form and give this form a class name of max width dash xl, which is going to limit this just a bit. There we go. And then I should properly center it, so mx auto. There we go. And then now we're going to remove this. And you know what I've just realized? I want to turn this into a dark theme. I didn't much like the white background that we had, so let me go ahead and do this. Inside the body, let me say at apply bg slate 800. Let me see how this looks. Let's work with the dark theme. I think this is going to be much better. And then back inside our home page, that means we need to restyle this. So inside our h1 here, give this a class of text white and remove this. And then inside, which one is it? Inside this one as well, change this back into text white for our loading. And then inside the paragraph, change this into text white as well, and it should say, there we go. And then our input can remain as it is, or maybe I should give it a slate color as well. Let me try something. bg slate dash 400. bg slate 400. Let me change the placeholder. Let's say placeholder dash white. Yeah, I think that works. And then let me go ahead and inside the form, let me set autocomplete off. There we go. And then now we can, yeah, of course we now need to change the color of the input. So instead of saying placeholder white alone, let's also say text white, so that we're going to have that. There we go. Fantastic. And then now let's work on displaying our data. So below this div, which ends here, let's have another div, and then inside this div, let's start to map over our data. So I'm going to say dogs.map, and then for every dog that we get back, meaning the object of the dog that we get back, then I want to return an article with a key of dog.id. I think it should have, let me check, dog.id right here, which we are going to use as the unique key, and then close this out. And then below this, we're going to have an image. The source for this image is going to be the dog dot, let me see, the dog.image.url. So dog.image.url. And then the alt attribute, in case the image fails to load, let's return the dog.name. And then below this, we're going to have an h2. You know what, let me say an h3 that says dog.name, which is going to be the name of the dog, dot name. And then below this, we're going to have, let me see, and you know what, because this is only the home page, then probably I should just have this. Or you know what, let me have the bread for. So let's return a paragraph that says bread 4, and then let's say dog.bread underscore 4. So let's save this, and then let's see what we have on the screen. We should have a bunch of data, and there we go. So it's all just jumbled up, and then now we're going to work on styling it. And let's go ahead and do that. So inside this image, let me give this image a class name of rounded. And then inside this article, let's give this article a class name of BG slate-700 and padding all round of 4 with a rounded border with a very slight box shadow. And I don't really think a box shadow is going to do much because like it's already like the background is already dark. So let me remove the box shadow from here. And then now let's go inside this div, give this div a class name of grid and grid columns -1 with a gap of 8. And then let's say that for medium screens, then the grid columns should be 2. And then for large screens, then the grid columns should be 3. And then for 2XL screens, then the grid columns should be 4. And then we should have 1, 2, 3, 4. And do not, I've just realized it's a bit squeezed. Yeah, it's a bit squeezed because 4 is a bit large. So let me remove this 4th one so that we only have large screens. Let me change this into XL, and then let me go inside this section parent, which is this one, change this into 7XL, make it bigger. There we go. Yeah, this is much better. And then now let's go back inside this div. Let's give this div a margin on the y-axis of 10 to push away from this input. You know what, let me say that for large screens, margin y20, pushed away even further. There we go. And then on the bottom as well, we're going to have a margin on the y of 20. So we are going to have this. Let's style these images. So let's style these images so that they're going to be the same height. On mobile screens, it doesn't really matter that much. As you can see, it doesn't really matter much on mobile screens. But when you begin to increase it to where you have 2 grids, then the height difference comes into play. So what we're going to do is inside here, we're going to say that for medium screens, then the height is going to be 56, meaning all the images are going to have the same height. And then let's just say width full as well. So let's say width dash full. This can be applied on all devices. It doesn't really matter. Width dash full. And then let me see if there's any that stretches out weirdly. You see how this one is stretching out a bit weirdly? What you can do is you can say object dash contain, but contain is not really all that good because it does this. So I want this image to always stretch to the end. So I'm going to change this into cover, and meaning it's going to zoom in just a bit and the image is no longer going to be stretched out. But you can see that it is no longer stretched out, but it cuts a bit of like the head here. So let's increase this height to about 72, and that should work much better. There we go. And then even on large screens, when you increase this right around here, and then on extra large screens, nothing really changes, so that we're going to have this looking nice. So let's begin to style this out. Let's go inside this h3, give this a class name of text white and text large and font bold, and then margin bottom of 4 to push away from this paragraph. And you know what, let me say margin y, so pushed away from the image as well as the paragraph. Okay, this is a bit too big. Let me say margin top of 4, margin bottom of 2. And then okay, that's bothering me. Let me say margin bottom 0. How is that? Okay, I think we can work with that. And then let's go inside this paragraph, give this a class name of text slate dash 300. Let me see how 400 looks. 400. Yeah, 400 is okay. It's readable behind this background. So we're going to have that. Okay, so that is basically our homepage, and I've just remembered something. Let me add lazy loading to these images. So loading is equal to lazy, meaning it's only going to load the images that are closer or inside the view, the what's it called, the viewport. So when you scroll down, then the images that are outside the viewport are removed, and then the images that scroll into the viewport are now like loaded in, so that it just improves the performance of your application. I noticed it when I scrolled down to the bottom and like it hung for a second. That's when I noticed it. So the next thing that we need to do now is we need to make these cards clickable. So in order to do that, then we're going to cut this entire article out, and then we're going to place it inside a link like so, which is going to be linking to a page. And remember, this page we called it the single dog page, and the path for it is the /name, and the /name is coming from the API, which is going to be the dog.name. So we're going to remove this key from here because now we are not returning the article, we are returning the link. And then the link needs to take in a toprop, which is going to be the path, or like the URL where you want the link to go to. So if you have some gibberish inside here, when you click on this link, so let me just try and show you. Click on this link. When I hover, oh, link is not defined. Let's import it on top. So import link, and what I've done there is I've just gone to the component and said control spacebar, which gives me a drop down list, and I can just say click on this link, which is going to automatically import it, as you saw. So save this. Now watch what happens when I hover over this. Look at the link on the bottom left. The link is like the gibberish that we put in. Right now I don't want the link to be like this, because even if I change this into something else, I don't even know how to spell something. Now look at the link on the bottom left, it changes also. So you want that link to be dynamic depending on whatever card that we are hovering over. So what we're going to do is we're going to return template literals inside here with backticks, and this is now going to go into /, and then it's going to go into $, and place in our brackets dog.name. And this is significant because we are saying the path here is going to be the /name, and the name we're getting it from the dog.name, which is coming from the API. So once I save this, then now look, when I hover over this, I return the name of this dog inside here. When I hover over the second one, it returns the name of the dog, and so on and so forth. And so that is working correctly. And now when I click on this, then what we should see is the single dog page that only says single dog. So let's try it out, and you can see it returns single dog. And now look at, even the URL inside here has changed. And if I go back and I try to click on another one, then you can see the URL also changes, but it still returns single dog. And don't worry about this, we're going to populate it dynamically as well. So our routing is working correctly. Now what I just want to do is I want to have some kind of hover on this. Like I just want to make the cards a bit lighter when I hover over them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this out from here, paste it inside here. Nothing should change. Okay. And then now I want that when I hover over this, then the BG should be slate dash, let me say 600, with a very slight transition. So transition dash all with a duration of 200. That, like when I hover over it, it gives some kind of notification that I am hovering over this card currently. That's looking much better. So click on one of the dogs, and then we can just go ahead and begin to style the single dog page. So inside the single dog, let's return a section inside here with a class of max width dash 5xl with an mx of auto to center everything. And then inside here, let's return single dog. And then let's tell this each one, let's give this a class name of text dash white, just to see like where it's going to be. So it's going to be there. And then what I'm going to do is, what I want inside here is I want this to move all the way to the center. So let me say, give this a class of flex and items the center, and justify dash center with an h of screen, which is going to move everything to the center. There we go. There we go, looking nice. And you know what, let me remove item center from here for a moment. Let me see, goes back to the top. Okay. And if I remove justify center, then it's going to go to the left. Yeah, okay, so we're going to have that. Actually, okay, you know what, let me just remove this for a moment. Move this for a moment, and you can see that now we have our single dog. So what we need to do inside here is, because we're going to be getting this single dog data, we also need to import use state and use effect. And then we need to import our link, which is going to link us back to the homepage from React Rotterdam. And then we also need to import another hook from React Rotterdam called use params. And what use params does, it just accesses the URL so that it checks when the URL like changes. And so what we're going to do is this: we're going to add our state value that's called single dog, or you know, let me just call this dog and set dog, meaning one dog. this is going to be equal to useState. By default, it's going to be null, and null because now the dog that we're going to be returning is going to be an object. And then inside here, let's also say const name, so destructure the name from the use params from the URL, and then set this equal to use params, like so, meaning just the structure in the name. And then let's set up our use effect. And then for the use effect, we are going to have this. We're going to have a dependency array here called name, and the name is basically coming from use param. And what it means is that when you have a dependency array in your use effect, then whatever function or whatever like block of code that you have inside your use effect is going to be executed every single time that the name changes, which is what we want, because every single time that the name changes in our URL, that it means that we are on the profile of another dog, and we want to get different data which corresponds to that particular dog, which is what we want. So inside here, we're going to have this. I'm going to go back into our home page, and then I'm just going to copy this part here because it's almost going to be basically the same. Let me remove this console log, and then I'm going to paste it inside here. Remove this console log, change this into set dog, and then this can remain. We're going to change this link. This is the only thing that we're going to change. And then now let's see, fetch dog data. Probably I should change this function, so Control and D. So fetch single dog data. Let's call it that. And then now let's check for the proper link. And so the proper link for this should be inside our, where is it? Search for breeds by name should be it. Search for breeds by name. So let me copy this, and then we're going to be appending something to the end of this. So just copy this, and you know what, it's only going to add the /. And so what we need to do is we're going to be appending a query to this get request, and that query is going to be equal to the name, because now look at this, look at how the API works. If I go to this link, then it should return, let me see what it returns. Formatting. Does it return something? I don't think it returns anything. But if I append a query here, and I was searching for bulldog, for example, if I append a query and set this equal to bulldog, then we should get, okay, I got lost for a moment. Okay, so as I was saying, when you append a query to the end of this get request, then you get data which corresponds to that particular query. Now in our case, the query is always going to be the particular dog name, which means it's going to return only one item. So for example, if I search for German Shepherd, as I did, then it's always going to return only one item. And so what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to cut this out and then remove these two quotation marks, and then I'm going to place them inside backticks, and then I'm going to be appending a query here. So $Q, and set this equal to $brackets name, meaning set it equal to the name that we get from use params. Okay, so let's go ahead and try this out. If I render the name inside here instead of just single dog, let's render the name. Probably make this about text 3XL, make it bigger. Then we should see the name of the dog here. Now if I go back and try to click on another dog, then we should see the name of the dog. So our functionality is slowly coming into play. Now just because I like it, I want to go and search for the bloodhound just because I like it. And then now we're going to be working with this particular one. So let's go ahead and do this. Now instead of just returning an H1 inside here, cut this out. We're going to return in article, and then we can paste this in, and then on top of this we're going to have another article. And then let me just you know what, let me console log the data. Let me console the data to see whether we're getting back an object or an array. I think I said we're getting back an object, but I'm not sure. Let me see. So we get an array. We get an array. Okay, so that means that we need to do this. Let's cut this out, and we're going to say the following. We're going to say dog.map, and then for every single item that you get back, which is basically a dog, but I don't want to call it like D or something. You can call this whatever you want, by the way, in case you didn't know. Then we're going to be returning a div inside here, which is going to be the parent. And then inside here, we're going to have an article, which is going to be the first image. the image on the left, and then we're going to have another article which is going to be some more text on the right, and then this is going to have a key of item.id. And oh, therefore this means that this is no longer null. This should be an empty array, just to keep it like what's the word, like to give it the same like data structure as the API or something. The name is escaping me. So let's go ahead and do this. Inside here we're going to have an image, and we're going to call this image, wait a minute, we're going to call it what? Item.image. Let me see, where is it? Here, item.image. Oh, so let me show you something interesting. So we're getting the reference image ID inside here instead of the full link to the image. So what we're going to do is this. We're going to say, actually this can remain. We're going to place in our backticks, and then we're going to have a link, which is a link to the API, and then we're going to be appending the reference image ID at the end of it. So for example, if I go back, let me just go back inside here, just get all the breeds. Loading. Then we're going to have a URL here, and notice how the URL goes up to here, and then it goes into the reference image ID, which is this part right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy this part all the way to here, copy it, and then we're going to paste it inside here. And then once we paste it in, we're going to append our $, and we're going to append the item dot what's it called, dot reference image ID. So reference underscore image underscore ID, and then because it's an image, it has to be JPEG or PNG. Just to begin with, I'm going to add JPEG, but you're going to see it's going to be an issue. I mean, for some of them only, not for all of them. And then this is the image on the left, and then now let's work on the article on the right. So inside here, let's return an h1, and this h1 is going to say item dot name, and then below this we're going to have a paragraph that says item dot description. Description. Some don't have descriptions. For example, the only one that has a description here is this first one, but others don't have it. So what we're going to do is this. We're going to cut this out, and we're going to say that when item.description exists, description exists, only when it exists, that's when we should render the paragraph that says item.description. And then below this, we're going to have another paragraph that says bread 4, and then we're going to say item.bread underscore 4. And then now let's begin to add in some more data, such as the height, the weight, and the breed group. No, we don't need this. Do we need this? I think we do. So let's do this. We're going to have a UL below this with the list items, how many, so the height, so the height, weight 1 2, and then description is there, name is there, bread 4 is there, and you know what, bread 4 should actually be inside this UL actually. So we need 1 2 3 4 5 6, so 6 of them, and then we can cut this out and paste it inside here, and then remove this paragraph. And then the next one should say weight bread 4 and then height, and then this should say weight. And then I'm only going to be working with the metric units instead of imperial units, and then this should say breed group, and then it says lifespan and temperament. So lifespan and then temperament, there we go. And then just say item dot temperament, and then this one says lifespan should be item dot life underscore span. Is that how it is? There we go. And then this should say item dot breed underscore group. This one says item dot weight dot should be metric, and then just say kgs. And then this should say item dot height dot metric. Is it? Yeah, dot metric. And then this should be centimeters. I hope this works. So let's save it, and then let's check our application. So nothing happens. Reload. Okay, so once it reloads, then you can see that this is the page that we're going to have. So let me close the console, and then let's begin to style this out. So let's style out this page, and we're going to do this. Let me see. Oh, by the way, I did mention that this is going to be an issue, and I'm going to try and show you what it is. And I've just realized that let's add an alt attribute here, so that in case the image fails to load, then it should say the name of the dog that you've clicked on. And then now let's go into this div, give this div a class name of grid, and grid colors 1 with a gap of 8. Save this, and then let's shrink this down to see how it looks on mobile screens. So on mobile, I want this to push inwards, so let me say padding all round of 8. And then now let me try and add flex here, and item center, and justify center, and then let's say H screen to see whether this is going to push to the center. There we go, that's what I wanted. And then now when you scale it up to about medium screens, then I want it to display as 2 items. So that we're going to do this, let me go inside here and say that for medium screens, let's say grid columns -2. Okay, fantastic. And then let's also say that for medium screens, then place dash items dash center, which is going to bring this text to the center. And then now let's type this h1. Is it an h1? Yes, it's an h1. Give this a class name of text-3xl, font bold, text white, margin bottom 8, and then let's say for large screens, text-5xl, make it even bigger. Fantastic. And then let's style out this UL. And you know what, oh, the description is here, but it's not here. So if it is there, then let's give this a class name of text slate 400. Let me see. Oh, it doesn't have okay, so that means then I have to look for one with that description, which is this one. There we go. So description is here. Let's give it a margin bottom, so margin bottom 8. And by the way, this is the only one that I have found that has a description. I don't know whether others do have them, but if they do, that just in case, that this is how it's going to show up. And then let me say this. Let's say that for small screens, then the text is going to be small. And then let's say that for large screens, then the text is going to go back into the base font. So for small screens, look at this here. You can see how it's small and it's a bit squeezed up. So let's increase the line height by saying leading loose. Let me see. That's a bit too wide. Let's say relaxed. Okay, I don't like that. Let me take it back to loose. And then on large screens, so large screens right around here, I'm going to say this. For large screens, then the leading should be relaxed, which is going to increase the line height just a bit, and it makes it more readable. And then let's do the same for this UL. So inside this UL, let me see if I give this a class name of text small, does it affect this? Oh, it does, which means that I can say text slate -400 as well. Okay, and then I can say that for large screens, let me say leading loose first of all. Actually, that doesn't affect it, does it? Oh, it does. Okay, fantastic. Then I don't need to add margins manually. And then I say that for large screens, then the text should go back to base, and then for large screens, then the leading should be which one is it? Relaxed. Go back to leading relaxed. That's looking okay. Nice. That's looking nice. And then of course, let's add a back button. So right around, should I add it here maybe, or below the UL? Let me add a link here that links back to the /, which is the home page. And then let's just say ampersand left arrow, so LARR left arrow, and then just say back, and it should appear here. And then let's give this a class name of inline block. Let's give it a BG slate 800. Actually, 800 is the same as the background. Yeah, it doesn't even change. So let's say 400, and not even 400, but like 600. Let's say padding Y2, padding X of 6. Let's give it a rounded border. There we go. Is it inline block? Yes, it is. So I can say margin top of, let me say 8, pushed away from that. And then let's say this text -white, and then when you hover over it, then the BG should be slate 500 with a transition of all, with a duration of 200. So give it a very slight transition like that. And then when you click on it, it takes you back to the home page, and then you can go ahead and look for another dog. Let me search for the German Shepherd here, and we're going to have that. Okay, that's looking quite nice, as you can see. Very nice. And you know what, I've just noticed something. Probably I want this text to be bold a bit, just so that like it highlights what you are reading currently. I think that is much better. So if I take this part, place it inside a span with a class of font dash bold, and paste it in, then it should turn to bold. Do I really like that? Probably if I make this text white. Let me say text slate 200. Let's do that. And then you know what, let me just copy this part copy this one up to here, and then paste it here, add our arrow, and let's change this to height, paste it here, add our arrow, change this to weight, paste it here, add our arrow, change this to breed group, and then paste it here. Oops, made a mistake. Copy this, paste it here, add our arrow, change this to lifespan, and then paste it here, add our arrow, change this to temperament. And I've just realized something else, that I want this to say, oh, it's already years. Oh, wait a minute, does that return from the API? Or did I add the text here, lifespan? Okay. Oh, it returns from the API. Okay. And so let's check what we need to do next. There was one that the picture wasn't showing. Which one was it? It was a terrier. This one. Yeah, see for this one, the picture doesn't show. It's because this picture is a PNG image. So let's try and do this. Let's try and do this. Let me copy this. Let me just test it. Copy this and then change this into PNG. Change this into PNG, meaning how it should work is let me copy this. Because how I want it to work is, if this doesn't show, then this should show. So that means that if I cut this out, if I do this, how do I want to do this actually? Okay, let me do this. Let me cut this out all the way to here. Copy, not cut it out, I mean. And then let's do this. Let's place in our backticks and our $sign, and then paste this in. No, paste in our link, and then let's say this. Let's take a check and say that if this exists, then this image should show. Cut this out. No, that's not even here. It should be here outside this. If this exists, then this image should show. Otherwise, another image should show, which should be the very same one, except should say PNG. I don't know whether this will work. I don't know whether this will work. And it doesn't. Does it? No, it doesn't. So let me see. I'm checking that if... Okay, let's remove this and remove this. Remove this and remove this. So we're checking that if the PNG image does not exist, is it possible to add an OR here? Let me see. If I cut this out. Okay, now let me cut this entire thing out. Remove this and remove this. And then when I save this, then nothing should change. So the source for this is going to be this one, and then let's say or this one. So the source is either this one. If this doesn't load, then this should load. Should it? Let me see. Reload. Nothing. Let me try another one. This one still loads in as you expect. This one should still load in, but still the pitbull does not load in. I don't think this is possible. Is this possible if this does not exist? And theoretically, then it means that if I remove this from here, oops, if I place this to the end of this, then the pitbull image should show, but others won't show. Yeah. Okay, I'm not dealing with that. I've still not figured out how to render the PNG images. So for now, we're just going to have this. And let's just have that for now. Okay, so let me see what functionality we need to add. Have the back button, so we only need to deal with our form. So let's go ahead, let's go back into the home page, and then let's go ahead and create our state values which are going to control the form. So I'm going to call this text and set text, and this is going to be equal to use state. By default it's going to be an empty string, and then let's convert this into a controlled input. So set the value of this equal to our state value which I've just created called text, and then let's have our own change handler here accessing the event value, and then let's say set text into e.target.value, meaning it's going to populate the input with whatever we text in, which is going to populate our state value. I've said text in, I mean type in. And then let's go ahead inside the form, let's have an on submit handler. So on submit, let's create a function called handle submit. So let's go ahead and create this function below this and say const handle submit is equal to access the synthetic event of e, and then let's call a function called e.prevent default, meaning it's going to prevent the default behavior of the form reloading the page when you submit it. And then we want to also submit another function which is going to call this API depending on the text that you type in, and I'm going to call this function, let's say search for dog. And then let's go ahead and create this function above this. So const search for dog is equal to an asynchronous function, and then we're going to say this, we're going to say place in a try catch block, and then inside here we're going to say console.error, the error that we get, and then inside here we're going to say this. So we're going to copy this part, copy it up to here and copy it here, paste it in, and then this is going to go into /search and the query is going to be equal to the text that you type in, and then these need to be backticks like so. So the text that you type in is going to be the query, which is going to cause this to rerun. Let me see, and then once it reruns, it's going to set the dogs. So basically our initial state value, it's going to set it into the data that we get back according to the query, and then we're calling this function inside here. So I think that should work. Why do I feel like it's not going to work? So let's search for German Shepherd. Let me see. Okay, so it doesn't work. F12. So cannot read properties undefined reading URL. Cannot read properties undefined reading URL. The URL is on the image, so it means that something is not working on the image. Let me disable this image for a moment, which should be this one. Disable this image. Let me see. Let's search for German Shepherd. Okay, so it means that something with the image is going wrong. So let me try and do this. Let me cut this out, and then let's place that conditional and check that only when dog.image.url is true, that's when this should render. Save it. Let me see. German Shepherd still cannot read properties undefined reading URL. Oh, you know what do we get back from this? What URL? Oh, you know what, It's because when we are searching with the query, there is no image.url from the API. That's what's happening. So we don't even need to have this in. We don't need to have this in. Okay, so that means this. Let me see. It means we're going to have to recreate this. We're going to have to recreate this part. Copy this. And then we're going to paste it here. And then we're going to go into single dog. We're going to copy this part. You know, let's just copy this image and paste this image here. And then the reference image ID is going to remain the same. However, I want these same classes as, where is it? Oops. Okay, I pasted it on the wrong thing. That should be here. And then I want the classes here. So class name, copy this and paste them on this image. And then let me see. I don't know whether this is going to work. I'm not sure. Is that going to work? Let me save this. Let's watch our application break. Yes. So that is working correctly. When it breaks, it's working correctly. So that means this should say dog. Okay, and now the only problem with this is that it's going to show like many items instead of just one. This should also say dog. It's going to show like 300 items or something. It's going to show 300 items because we are rendering dogs.map on the bottom here, and we are still rendering dogs.map on the top. So let me create, that means that we need to create another state value. So let me create another state value here. Let me call this searched. Let me just call it searched and set searched is going to be equal to useState. By default, it's going to be false. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go right below on this last one, on this one, and we're going to say this. We are going to say this. Let me see. We want that only when searched is true, that's when this is going to show. So let me try this. Let me add our brackets and say that only when searched is true, that's when I want this to show. Meaning I can remove this one from here and I can remove this one. Okay, so let's save this, and now this should go back to its original form, but it doesn't. It still doesn't. Let me see. Oh, you know what? Therefore, then I should go and say this. I should say set searched into true here, and then I should go and say, where do we fetch our data here? So this is the initial data. So let me say this. Let's say set searched into false. I mean, it's already false, but we're just still setting it into false here before we populate this data. So let me see. Now let's try it again. German. Okay, reading URL. I mean, wait, how did I do it the first time? How did I do it the first time? Okay, so let me try something. Where do we have this? Let's go ahead and do this. We're going to say that when searched is true, then we're going to say dogs.map all the, oops, that's the wrong place. Oh, wait. Okay, so when searched is true, let me cut this out and paste it on top of this, and then remove this. So when searched is true, then the dogs here should map all the way to here. And then when it is false, place your full colon, and then let's just say, what should we say? Close this out all the way to here, is it? What am I missing? Oops. What is missing? What is missing? Okay, you know what? Let me just remove all of this. Remove, remove, remove. Placing up our bracket here. And now everything should be back to normal. Okay, so everything is back to normal. So let me cut this out all the way to here. Cut it out. And then we're going to say this, that when searched is true, when searched is true, then we want the opposite to render. So this should be not searched. That's when we want our oops. Wait, what? I copied the wrong thing. Cut this out. Okay, so when not searched is true, that's when we want this to render. And then when it is not true, then we want, let me render a fragment. Then we want something else to render, and the something else that we want to render is this. So when not searched, then here we should have a bracket, and then we should have a bracket somewhere. Where does this end? Where does this end? Link ends here, so it should close it out here, or not, it should close it out here. There we go. Okay, so when this is not true, then this part should render, and then when it is true, then we are searching for something, then this part should render, which means we need to substitute this image. So let's copy this part and paste it inside here, and then change this into dog, so dog, and then this should have some class names. So copy these class names here, and then we should paste them here, and that should be fine. I think that should fix it. Reload just to make sure nothing changes. Okay, let's search for something German. Okay, there we go. Fantastic. And then, like I said, it's the reason why these images don't show is because they are PNG images and these others are JPEG. And then of course you can click on a card here and it still takes you to the internal dog page, and then when you go back to the original page, and it's looking quite nice. So that is cool. Just a small application with some bits of functionality here and there, and it's a good start if you've never worked with the React Rotterdam before. So before I end the video, then I just want to commit this to GitHub. So let me close these pages. Oops, my computer. Okay, there we go. So let's create a GitHub repository for this, and then let me just make sure that we don't have any errors in our console. Okay, we have no errors. Close, come on. And then let's close all these pages down. And then I also want to commit this, like to deploy this to Netlify. So let me also log into my Netlify account. So log in, and then let's create a new repository. I actually don't know whether I created a repository for this. So create a new repository. Let me call this the dog app. It's going to be public, so create repository, and then just copy this link, and then let's say git add all, and then git commit, let's say the dog app complete, and then let's say git remote add origin and paste in our link, and git push -u origin main. And then as it pushes, let's go ahead and search for this repository. It should be this one. Import an existing project from GitHub. And it's called the dog app. So the dog app. And then let's just check that this has finished. Okay, it has finished. And you know what, I've just remembered something. And let this deploy, and then I'm going to show you the something that I've remembered. Let's change the site name into site name. Let's say TsbSankara the dog, and then let's wait for a moment for this to finish deploying. So once it publishes, then you can go to this link and you should see your application. I mean, depending on the link that you clicked on, And then now let me show you what I realized. So if I click on a card here, notice how the link changes correctly, but if I reload it, then the application breaks. So that happens with Netlify when you're building internal routing, and in order to fix that, then what you need to do is back inside the root of your application, you need to create a netlify.toml file, so TOML, and then inside here you can just write in redirects, and then we're redirecting from equals to / every other link. We are redirecting it back into the / index.html, and then we need to specify a status of 200, which means it's okay. And then now when I commit this, so git add all and git commit, let's say netlify redirects, and then let's say git push. So once this pushes to GitHub, and then it's deployed on Netlify, close this. Then let's just check the deploy. It should start another deploy automatically. Let me see. Does it trigger? Starting up. There we go. Okay, so there we go. So it has deployed. Now if I reload this, then it should reload correctly. And then now if I go to another link and then reload it, then our application no longer breaks. So that's basically how you fix the reloading issue in Netlify with the React Router DOM. And with that, that is going to be the end of the project. And it's a fun little project. It's a nice project, and I hope you enjoyed it. And if you enjoyed it, then please leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you're not already. And I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.